Hey everybody, welcome to our Mahoney Matters news show. I'm Chris, got Guy with me from longtime journalist, as you know, and a member of the Trumbull County Prosecutor's Office. He does communications for them. Guy, how are you doing today?
Very well, Chris. It's been a busy week so far. We've reached Wednesday when we're taping this, and hopefully things will slack off. The weather is getting nicer, though. We're going to get
Yes.
some really high temperatures as the week goes on.
Yeah, summer is definitely coming, which is a relief. Man, the year flies by. We're almost into the mid-June now, which is kind of
Right,
crazy.
year's
Um,
almost half over.
Yeah, at the start, I want to give a tip of the hat. I mean, we're not really a sports show, but we talk sports here a little bit. Big state championship kind of season for some of our area teams. First of all, Canfield and Fitch won softball titles, and over the weekend, West Branch won the state baseball title. We were fortunate enough to have their coach on the other day. Please check out that. It was really fun to talk to him. But man, there's a lot of interesting issues going in Youngstown this week.
Yeah, one more thing
Um,
about the sports. I mean, we're making
yeah,
preparations now for football season. The
yes,
kickoff event for football is always the NFL Hall of Fame induction in Canton, and they're making. We made some preparations and getting credentials for that to cover the induction of Trumbull County's Randy Gradishar in August, early August. So just want to tip that off to our fans out there.
yeah, definitely check that out. Guy Vogel's going to be representing us as he covers Randy Grashar. Going into the Hall of Fame, it should be good. Yeah, and I think he'll be at a couple other events that week. I got to talk
Yeah,
about
but they
afterward.
did. They denied us access for the game, which is
Yeah,
really Thursday, but that's okay. I've
yeah,
I've been to the Hall of Fame games before, and really the big days are Saturday and Sunday. I think for the induction. The induction Saturday about noon.
I think we got what Texans and Bears, if I
Yeah,
remember right.
yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be the return of Ohio of Stroud.
Yeah, yeah. I maybe a bigger deal if like the Broncos came back and Jaleel McLaughlin from YSU played, but
Right.
yeah, no direct Youngstown State. I know
And
kind of
the credentials are really
both,
highly
both of
credentialed,
them.
and that's basically a high school stadium there,
Yeah,
so you
right.
can't really accommodate all media. I kind of expected that um, that
Well,
we would be denied at least for the game, but we got credentials for the other important events, the
right.
even the gold jacket dinner, which is Friday
Yeah,
night. I don't know if I can make it that one, but I'll try. And there's also the parade on Saturday morning, bright and early, like around 8 o'clock, and then the induction is at noon, right following it. So, but
yeah.
definitely
So
those two events will be covered.
yeah, falls for coverage. I think there'll be some individual media time with the inductees, and
Right.
I'm sure Guy will ask a question about Warren and see what Randy
His
has to say about
recollection
that.
of playing for the champion Flashes
Yeah,
back in the
yeah,
60s.
it should be good.
And
All
then,
right.
of course, his Ohio State days.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. Well, let's get into the news things. A couple of
Okay.
interesting items going on. First of all, the aftermath. It's been a couple of weeks since the bad explosion in downtown Youngstown. The story is kind of developing more layers to it as time goes on. We had a story the other day. Youngstown, as Guy said it, a lot of questions about what the structural stability of the building is. And I don't think anyone's going out and saying, hey, the building's going to be savable. But I think there's a lot of questions now going, is there an imminent danger of a collapse? And the city pretty much said, yes, there is. There is some things that can be done to kind of stabilize it for the time being. They're looking into that. The city contracted with a Cleveland company. We have the structural report for the building. We need to post. But they're saying, look, there's some, as Guy said, the first floor of the building pretty much collapsed. So there's danger in the first floor structure about how it's weighing up the rest of the building. It could collapse too. People don't know that. So it's tough. And let's go into this real quick because the layers of it is kind of multiple. First of all, obviously the realty building. You got Chase Bank. It's a bank. There's money in the bank. Now I'm assuming Chase Bank has Yeah, and right now, yeah, there's cash in the bank, but we're so digital now that it's not like they've lost cash. I'm sure Chase is able to cover that. But again, you've
Right,
got
right. And because of I do know a little bit of banking. My wife's in the banking business. Because of the um risk of robbery, there's very little cash
right,
on
right.
hand at any bank.
Yeah, so there has been concern about like, oh, we've lost all our money or anything else like
Right.
that. But still, it's a business, and it's important business in the area that I, I'm assuming Chase will try to come back in some way, but it's a business that's gone right now. Secondly, and we've talked about this, but probably not as much as we should have. The people who lived upstairs, that's their apartment. Now,
Right.
thankfully, there's a lot of people that were at work or out of the area because there could have been sadly even more deaths than what happened. But, I don't think these people have been able to go back to their apartments. Okay, one, to live in, but two, and pick up your clothes and you have a
All the
personal.
belongings, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how that works. I mean, I can't believe they're allowed to go up there and go around if there's danger of the whole thing collapsing. That would be safe.
And are the owners or somebody in authority going to go up there and collect the belongings?
And I don't know if it's safe to do that. If it's the owners
Right.
or individuals, it's tough. Well, so you've got that. Now you've got, and we started to talk about like this
Here's this
bistro.
other layer we're going to
Right.
introduce you to right now.
Well, the bistro restaurant has been closed. DoubleTree Hotel has been closed, and that's a business. Now, I know
Right.
in previous press conferences, Mayor Brown's talked about, well, we want to help them out, and I'm sure the city wants to help them out. But again, that business has been closed. Go back to COVID time. No matter how you felt about COVID, a lot of people
Right.
were like, wow, these businesses are closed. Well, Bistro's been closed. DoubleTree's been closed.
Yeah.
There's weeks where they can't do business. And I've seen interviews with the bistro owner where he's very sympathetic to what's happening, but he's frustrated. It's his business. We're trying to get him on a show here. So you've got that on top of everything. You've got in the structural report that was released yesterday, they're saying 210 feet away from the complex, the Realty complex, has got to be closed. And again, not because the city is being mean, it's because if the building collapses, those buildings could be in trouble too. So not just Bistro and DoubleTree, you've got International Towers. I believe up to 170 people live there right now.
Right.
That's got to be evacuated. And
So we're
and
we're making a lot of homeless people here.
right. And there were some good questions at the press conference going, wouldn't you have known that earlier? You know what I mean? We talked pre-show about 9/11. 9/11 after the buildings collapsed, there was dangers to other buildings in the area. Well, the city didn't know that until the
Right.
engineer came in and said, "Hey, look, this is the danger here." So that's why they didn't know.
Right.
But if I'm an International Towers resident, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Now I have to move. Where do I go to? And you might say, well, maybe you have family in the area. Okay, if you do, great. You might be able to do that. But not many people have that option or
Or
reality.
have any insurance policies maybe that, you know, take care of these in case of disasters like this happening.
And the city is saying all the right things. They're trying to provide help. I think Chuck Sasso said this at the press conference yesterday. Restaurants are saying, how can we help? So this is not a knock on Youngstown at all. People are trying to do their best. People are trying to offer food. There's been a call out there saying, is there a place for people to stay? So it's not like the city's turning a blind eye to people. But again, it's hard. It's one thing if I said, man, guy, I need a place to stay. Can I shack up with your family for a day or two? Most people say, hey, that's okay. But if I said, man, guy, this is going to be an ongoing thing. I
Yeah,
might
it
need to
looks
be up
like
here
it's open
for,
ended here.
6 months. You might be like, Chris, I want to help you, but I don't know if I can, And that's the tough thing. Well, and we got to be careful what we're saying too. We're just reporting what we've heard. We reported the 27-year-old that died, Chase Bank employee. His family filed suit. They said, look, uncalled for. This shouldn't have happened. There should have been safeguards put in place. Someone didn't have to die here.
Right. It
And
was a wrongful death.
right. And obviously, when someone dies, that's jarring. That should never happen. Yeah, being displaced. I mean, at least you're alive. But still, I'm kind of looking at if you're displaced, you might look for a lawsuit. You might say, look, this is costing me money. I've got my family. If you're single, think about how hard it would be. Just imagine I have a wife and two kids. If I'm living in that situation, how hard is it to know where to go, where to put my family, how to pay for it? And I I'm not the litigious guy, but man, guy, I'm thinking there might be some more lawsuits coming out. Do
Right.
you think?
And or, maybe there's some federal funding help on the way. I mean, I don't know what the NTSB is going to rule, but they're feds. If they rule it in the right way, maybe, Sherrod Brown, he's up for election. He may be able to push and get some federal aid coming Youngstown's way.
Well, and I'm kind of wondering because Brown said this in the press conference yesterday. We're on the phone with the feds. We're on the phone with the state, and I think it might be saying, "Hey, is there funding available?" I mean,
Right.
that's where the state and the feds could come in and try to help. I mean, we'll see what happens, but man, it's a tough position. And I'll tell you too. And again, we're talking apples and oranges here, but we've ran a lot of stories recently in Mahoney Matters about how the state has had to wait around on tornado areas being declared disaster because they're hoping
Right.
for funding for help there. Man, we've talked about this, geez, a lot over the past year. East
With the
Palestine.
East Palestine, right.
Yeah, right. And again, it's different. It's not a building collapse. I understand that. But again, in federal recovery money, there's a limit there. I mean, it's not this unending flow of money coming out. So it's tough, man. I feel bad for the city. I love how the cities come together, but there's a reckoning coming. I said this throughout COVID. I felt bad about the COVID situation, and we mourned the deaths, and we're glad for the people who were able to survive it. But COVID still has had a profound effect on our economy now. I think
And a
this.
way of living.
Well,
A lot of people working from home.
I think with the building, I think this is very different in some ways. Obviously, it doesn't affect as many people as COVID, but it's going to have a dramatic effect on some of these people's life. And
Yes.
I don't know what to suggest. And I'm a news editor. I'm not a FEMA expert or anything else like that. But I'm wondering what can be done. And I think that's kind of the big question facing city officials over the next few weeks, I'm sure.
And these things will be in the news as the summer moves on.
Yeah. And we're doing our best to cover as many angles of it as we can. With a small staff, it's tough because, yes, this is a big deal with what's happening, downtown and everything. There's a lot of other stuff to cover too. And, so we will be talking about the explosion. We're going to be doing as much coverage as we can. So stay tuned to us and other news outlets in the area for, just updates of what's happening down there. So. All right, wanted to bring this up. We had a very interesting week, and I feel like I need to explain a couple things with this. We caught
Yeah, a
wind,
couple stories that were kind of out of the ordinary, weren't they?
yes, and let me explain this real quick, and we can talk about it. WFMJ, they're obviously the NBC affiliate here in Youngstown. We look at them. We don't partner with other news organizations. We do our own thing. We cover day to day in Youngstown with the size of our staff and with some of the fact we're online only. Yeah, we'll cover some of the things of what they do, but we kind of take a little bit of a different angle. The way I kind of describe it is we kind of walk our own path. Yeah, we cover some of the similar things, but it's not how do you say it, guy? Like the classic competitive sites. Like we don't look at them as huge competition. They're just a fellow news organization in town. We
Right.
don't necessarily partner with them, but we don't compete with them or
You
feel
don't
like
ignore them either.
yeah, we don't ignore them, but they're not the enemy. They're fellow, what do you call it?
Journalists.
Yeah, fellow journalists. Yeah. It took the words out of my mouth. Very simple. Well, they went to a tough position this week. What their now former community relations director, she had a post where she shared a meme talking about straight pride. She kind of adores straight pride. And we're in the midst of Pride Month. Guy, just a history lesson, and it's something I've learned relatively recently. Pride Month is really marking what happened in the 60s in Stonewall, where, some riots happened, some protests happened. It was a momentous time for, the movement. And that's what to
Just like,
celebrate.
other movements in the 60s. This
Right.
also had its genesis in the 60s.
So to compare that, I I understand what people say, saying, okay, I'm straight. So, but you can't necessarily let's have a straight Pride Month. You're talking about something completely different. Why Pride Month happens is to remember the movement that this group is trying to make and trying to do some things. And it's remembrance of some tough things that they've gone through. And let's be honest, look at some of the laws that the Ohio State House is considering. It could be a tough future for the movement. But that's what Pride Month's about. So if you don't understand what a certain group goes for, to sit there and say, well, I'm straight, let's have a straight Pride Month, is doesn't meet the mark of what the other group is going through. This isn't a yay, I'm straight or yay, I'm gay. It's more of a let's remember what their movement's gone through and what they're trying to face.
Right. And
So,
then on the other side of this coin here, you have this person who's employed by a journalism type
right,
organization that prides itself on being fair and balanced.
right. And let me get to the end goal.
Okay.
We'll get back there. We've been covering this. We had a story that appeared on Wednesday as Molly Myers talking about she got fired for what she said. I've been in contact with her. I actually taped an interview with her today that we'll try to publish either Thursday or Friday. Um, so yeah, like you said, so she posted a straight pride meme that she thought was funny. It wasn't. If
Very opinionated, and it was on her.
right,
It was on let me get this straight. Was it a personal account, a social media account, but it also had the Channel 21 logo on it, right?
yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit because I've had a couple interesting conversations about this over the past, I don't know, week or so. She has like three personal Facebook pages. Why? I don't know. One of her Facebook pages is kind of like her public page. She uses to talk about work things. Like it has, I'm the community relations director on there. It has the logo for Channel 21. So apparently that page, even though it's personal, is public to everybody. Everybody can see it if you're friends with her or not. Now, guy, I can make the argument that
And that's the one that had the logo on it,
yeah, the one was available to the public. Where she,
and also had that controversial posting on it.
yes,
Okay, okay,
and
I'm getting there. Okay,
let me bottom line from my end. FMJ was 150% right in what they did. You can't, like you said, when you're representing an organization, and you might sit there and say, well, what if I said this? What if I said that? No, when you offend a bigger gap of your population, and gay, the gay, transgender, lesbian, bisexual, that community, either if you're that way or if you're a supporter, ally, whatever, that's a decent sized part of your audience. You can't alienate an audience. If you're a TV station, if you're a website, if you're a governmental organization, you can't do that. So when she made that post, she offended a huge group of people. And you
right.
could sit there and talk. And I heard someone's talk over the past week going, well, don't you have freedom of speech? Can't you say what you want? It's America. What's wrong with supporting straight pride or whatever? Well, first of all, you're not understanding what Pride Month's about. So it's kind of like if I said, hey, guy, I'm a Muslim and I'm supporting Ramadan. And you sit there and say, well, I like Jesus. Well, what you say might be right in your amounts, but what does that have to do with what I'm having to talk about? You're not really understanding where the other person's coming from. You know what I
Right.
mean?
You just, your best thing to do, especially as a community relations coordinator, is if you have a different opinion, don't address it all.
Right. Now here's the other thing, and again, I didn't know this, nobody else knew this. We the original thought was, oh, she's a community relations director. Is she like the PR person? No, she's not. She has a Sunday morning program where she talks about community events, but she's
Okay.
really reaching
That's
out to
that's good.
anybody. Yeah. So if you're a church and you say, hey, we're having a bake sale, and you might reach out to FMJ and say, could we be on the morning show? Maybe say, hey, we
So
can't.
really her job was to actually help the community get their news on the station or their information on the station.
Right. So news that may not
Right.
be news that your regular news show will talk about, they still want to have a place for it to go.
Did
So
she consider herself a journalist?
it was funny because she said, well, I'm apart from the newsroom. Like she wasn't
Ah,
in the newsroom meetings. But in the interview, I talked about it and said, well, look, don't you still have a responsibility because you guys are a news organization? You may not be the front facing person of that news organization, but still, when you throw out that you represent 21, even if you're taking out the trash at the end of the day, you're still representing 21, and
right.
what you say still matters. So it was a lightning interview, kind of got a little testy at times. I think, and again, please listen to the interview when it comes out. You can make your own opinion for where you think she's at. I think she said the right things. I really don't think she's against the community by any
She's
means.
not. She wasn't malicious in her intentions.
Yeah, she wasn't malicious. She did apologize for it. There was some thought at the end where she's like, well, I still want to post what I want to post. And I'm like, okay, but that makes it hard based on jobs that you're at.
Let me
Now,
ask
again,
this: was she surprised she got fired?
I, I think she didn't think a thought of it when she posted it, but
Okay.
once she understood what was happening, she
The
understood why.
repercussions as the thing unfolded, and the
She made
reaction.
she made a case that she shouldn't have gotten fired. And it's a good question. And you might sit there going, why are you talking about stuff at FMJ? It's got nothing to do with their
No,
another
we
news
we've
organization.
all faced that. I mean, Chris,
Right.
you have a podcast. I'm on this podcast. I can't offend the people of Trumbull County. I actually work for the
Well,
people of Trumbull County.
and
I
here's
got
the
to
other,
watch what I say.
it became a news story when FMJ came out and said, we're doing an investigation. You know, this isn't like, hey, guy, I saw you posted something weird the other night. Let's investigate it. No, the organization that employed her said, hey, we're concerned. We're launching an investigation. And they said this publicly. That's why, in my opinion, it's a news story. But you know, she understood what was going on. I think she didn't think she should have gotten fired from it, but you know, and I'll put my editorial hat on. She should have gotten something should have happened. Because again, you cannot risk offending a large part of your community with whatever. If it's
Right.
a dumb post about straight pride, or if I'm starting to yell about Youngstown, or if I'm yelling about a political party, you could offend a huge part of your population. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Just don't. And I don't think she understood that at the basis. And I really don't think she understood how a dumb post could be offensive. And again, you could sit here and, you know, we talked about cancel culture today. You could say, well, is it really that offensive? Well, it's not our judgment to see if it's really offensive. Just don't offend other people. Because if you're like, I don't think it's offensive, well, if you're the one that's saying it, you don't understand what's offensive or what's
Right,
not.
right.
You know?
And this goes back to, the misnomer about, well, it's a free country and the freedom of speech. Well, freedom isn't doing anything you want to do.
Right. But even
It's a
if I
responsibility, really.
right, and even if you sit there and believe in that, absolutely, okay, whatever. But again, if it's losing audience for your company, it becomes a problem. Even if I said, like, we joke about this, I'm a Steelers fan, you like the Browns. Now,
Right.
again, inconsequential. Who cares in grand scheme of things? But
And
if
I can offend Steeler fans.
but if my post on the Steelers, say I got militant, like say I was like
Okay.
yelling and screaming about everything. If people were leaving our site because I was yelling and screaming about the Steelers, that becomes a
Being
problem.
obnoxious, right?
Right.
Not being a good sport.
And okay, you can, argue to the end of the world saying, well, is a meme about straight pride obnoxious or offensive? If you offend other people, that's where it becomes a problem. And
Right.
honestly, guy, I think here's the problem. We can't be so afraid not to say anything. But I think we go into these things saying, what do I have the right to say?
Right.
What's good for me?
And
I'm not
freedom also,
right.
for me, freedom means thinking about something before you say it.
Right. That for one. And two, if we really care about other people, I start sitting here and say, okay, what's the consequences of my words? And see, that's the risk we run with a podcast like this
Right.
because, we're kind of paid for our opinion. We're giving our opinion, but in this venue, we got to do it in a responsible way. If I start ridiculing people just for the heck of it, shame on me. Now, when we criticize people, we're doing that based on the nature of the news and everything. And there's a difference there. There's a difference of how you do it and how you say it and everything else. And
Right.
it was interesting. I thought it was good that we gave her a chance to talk. Believe me, we weren't agreeing with what she was saying or saying, hey, you know, thank you for your opinion or whatever. It was just more of let's understand where she's coming from. And hopefully from that conversation, we can all be better people. We can all
And it'll
respect and
make us
understand what she was saying.
journalists more careful in what we say, what vehicle we're saying it. I mean, maybe that wasn't a good idea to use or a social media page that has the logo of your company on
Yeah.
it, and
Well,
just don't put it out there for everybody.
hey,
Know
here's
who
my
your audience is.
And here's my other conversation. You might be like, "Why are you guys always talking about TV?" No, this is your workplace. You work for a government
Right.
organization. This is important. This is important in if you're working for a local McDonald's or you're a fast food place or whatever. What you say on social media matters. Heck, it should be a conversation you have with your family. You know what I mean? If your
Right.
wife is posting crazy things online that could affect you, you might say, "Hey, be careful." And honestly, too, guy, if you're posting about something, what does it matter? Like you could say, "Well, Chris, I feel strongly about whatever
Right.
the issue might be." You're
But
not
in
going
the
to win on.
grand scheme of things, your opinion and 10 cents don't get you a cup of coffee anymore.
Well, and even if your opinion's great, and even if you think you have a good
Right.
viewpoint of whatever we're talking about, how many conversations are won on Facebook?
Right. How
Yeah,
many arguments are won? Right.
yeah.
On
You're
Facebook.
not. Yeah, you're not doing it. So again, we don't endorse anybody losing their jobs. We don't find a big thrill or pleasure out of it, but this kind of crossed the line. And she had instances in the past where she said some things. You got to be careful about what you say, especially if it, hurts your audience. So,
So if you want to learn more about this topic, read or go turn to click on Chris's interview with the WFMJ's ex community relations director.
yeah, and we'll have it. We have a little bit of audio issues. The audio may not be the best, but we'll have it up Thursday or Friday. Check out too, Pride Month. I know everyone has different feelings about how they feel about Pride Month. My recommendation: respect other people. That doesn't mean you have to go to every event. It doesn't mean you have to, participate every parade. But let's
We
respect
respect people
everybody.
because
Yeah.
people are really proud, and this is the good kind of pride. People are proud of who they are, where they come
Well,
from, and what they stand for.
and if you
Because
agree or
they have
just
dignity. They have all a sense
right,
of dignity.
and if you agree or disagree, may this be a lesson where again you don't have to participate in every event. Like if it's a religious organization or a social stance or whatever the case may be, you don't have to agree with anything, but don't run people down. respect where people are coming from. If you have
Right.
a chance of having a personal conversation with someone, you can share
It's
your
part
opinions.
of being kind and being a good neighbor.
Yeah, but have these conversations in person. The
Right.
social media phase,
Right.
it's just basically costs you a job, and it cost Madonna her job, and I don't blame FMJ for that at all. So let's end up with another weird. Well, hate to call these weird
This is
circumstances, but
would
this
be a
is one
good ending, though, and just the really, I think it's a story of the times we live in. Really,
yeah, yeah. And let's share a story. I definitely want to talk about that because that raises a good point. Um, one of the things as journalists, and I could say this in 2024, I could say this in the 70s or 80s too. You have to answer questions that are happening in the community. You might sit there and say, "Hey, what's this new restaurant coming in?" That's a great story. Find out what the restaurant is, share it with the public. Well, the other day on Twitter, we started noticing a lot of posts about American flag being flown upside down in Austintown, Ohio. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, that's our area. What's going on with this? I had some contacts at McDonald's, and it was quite the hour of talking to people, getting pushback from McDonald's, trying to understand what was going on, and everything else. Um, as you know, in the past, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, former President Trump got convicted in a case in New York City. Some of the people that were protesting the decision were flying their American flags upside down. Historically, if you fly your American flag upside down,
sign of
you're,
distress.
yeah, you're saying, oh, it's distress. And yeah, it's different if you did that in front of your house as compared to a restaurant or the Trumbull County building or wherever else you might, say it's good to do it at.
It wasn't done in Trumbull County before
Right,
anybody
right.
gets it.
Yeah, yeah. I saw a guy get a little frightened there for a second. No, but what I'm saying is wherever it happens, it is trouble. Okay, I'll put it like that. So at the Austintown McDonald's, some sharp-eyed people driving by said, "What the heck? This flag's been flown upside down."
And this is the middle of Austintown, corner 46 and Mahoning
Right,
Avenue. For those of you that don't know the McDonald's there,
right. And again, the timing. Okay, yeah, it probably a little troubling if it happened, if there's nothing happened politically. But again, this was right about the time of Trump's conviction, and people were in a little bit of a what do you call it?
a time of distress, maybe political
Well,
distress.
in a time of a sensitivity time. People can get real
Right,
sensitive on stuff.
sensitive.
Well, I completely understand, what's happened with why you shouldn't post straight pride posts. Well, this is the same sensitivity we got to be careful about. So, obviously on Twitter, everyone's like, well, are they trying to make a political statement? Is this McDonald's? Is this the owner? What is it? So, we talked to McDonald's. McDonald's said, hey, look, it's early in the morning. Our maintenance guy made a mistake. He's supposed to go out and furl the flag every day. He posted it upside down. We're in a rush, we're in a hurry. He went back
Maybe
inside.
a lack of staff, a lot of
Right.
call offs nowadays because of
Yeah.
COVID. A lot of people don't show up for work anymore. It's
Well,
just the times we live in.
I guess their statement to me was human error. It happens. You know
Right,
what I
human
mean?
error.
Right. Well, a lot of people who read our story were like, "Oh, I call bull crap." No, we're journalists, okay? Yeah, we report what happens. Yeah, we all
Right.
have our own personal opinions of what we think, but we can't yell bull crap or not bull crap. But it was very interesting to see what happens. Again, situation rectified. They fixed the flag. I haven't been by the Austintown McDonald's yet
I
today.
have last Monday. I brought my grandkids there.
Yeah,
Uh, the order was not right, but that was okay. We had fun. We stayed a few hours, played on the playground. That's one of the few, if not the only, indoor playground in McDonald's in the Mahoning Valley. So there you
and the
go.
flag was the flag flying right side up.
The
That
flag was flying right side up. I made sure to
thank
look.
goodness, thank goodness.
And it was a
Very good.
it was a really it was a very cold, gray, 50-degree June day. So I mean, it was a good day to go indoor playground.
Well, and I think the cap to all of this is, and you raised this a few minutes ago. I've been in PR for a couple of years, and PR, yeah, there is times where you have to be careful. There's a definite crisis in the area, or whatever the case might be. But I think you've got to be really sensitive to the times that we're living in.
Right.
And going back to Madonna, I don't believe Madonna's against gay people or anything else like that. But Madonna made a dumb post at a really bad time to make a dumb post.
Right. And
And
just
she
like it was a dumb mistake of flying the flag upside down.
right.
It wasn't
And,
malicious either.
right. And in both cases, okay, we can argue about this for hours on, should someone be fired or should somebody not? That's not even our place to do it in. But don't be surprised if you do something during a perilous time, like posting something weird during Pride Month or flying your flag upside down if it's a mistake. You're
And,
in.
and look at the we haven't had a final report on this blast that's caused such distress in Youngstown for those living downtown there.
Well,
Uh,
I would say with the
you
straight
know what
pride,
what what is happening there? I mean, we're it could be human error from that one, maybe. So we have to live with the repercussions of
right?
all these actions.
Well, look at this too. If you're not careful about the way you're handling business, then you can put yourself in a bad position. And again, I think that's a little bit different. The explosion thing, you got to be careful about how you handle the buildings in the area and everything. But I think when it
Right.
comes to more of the effect of,
I was
you
thinking
know,
more about what caused the explosion.
right. But
Yeah.
in terms of the straight pride post and the flag being flown upside down, understand of the times we're in the situation we're in too. And you gotta be really careful. And you gotta be respectful and honest of other people. Again, like the flag, it could have been a simple mistake, but when you do it during this time, be aware that people are gonna be, raising their suspicious eyes at you. And maybe now's the time to just be careful. Be careful what about you post online. Be careful about how you're handling the flag. Be careful. When it comes to sitting and safety, be careful. I'm
Right.
glad the city is taking a lot of precautions now. How do you take precautions beforehand? How do we save structures downtown? Because it could cost city, could cost the city a lot of money, cost this woman her job, and it costs McDonald's a lot of embarrassment. So,
Right. And we had a loss of life in the blast, and
right,
maybe getting back to what we were first talking about, the downtown hotel, it was just really finding its stride there, the bistro, and getting people coming downtown to stay. And now it's being closed for a few weeks. The momentum's stopping. So, lot of serious issues here, Chris, today.
yeah, definitely. And thanks everyone for the time. And again, I understand where we're coming from. We're not making any. Well, to wrap it up, I think with FMJ did totally the right thing. I don't think Madonna was wrong, and what I don't think Madonna has a. You can probably argue that it was maybe a bigoted comment in the light of it being Pride Month and everything. I don't think Madonna's against a certain group of people. Madonna did a dumb thing at a dumb time, and she paid for her
She's
job.
paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't blame FMJ for that. Austintown McDonald's, like I said, we're not blaming McDonald's of anything bad. But again, you gotta be careful. Okay. During this time, put your flag upright. You know what I mean? And I know you might be short staffed or everything. Have the maintenance guy say, hey, once you put it up, take a minute, go back out, make sure it's still upright. Don't make a mistake like that. And with the city, look, I'm glad they're taking the action. I'm glad the engineering department is doing some checks. Maybe we need to check other buildings and make sure we're in good shape because, you know, be prepared beforehand so you don't have to pay the consequences after, I guess.
For sure.
All right. Well, guys, always, thanks for your time. For guys, this is Chris. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good night.